And what are you not seeing on the defensive end? That's you guys are scoring 3 goals. It should be enough to get the win. But what are you not seeing on the other end there that's forcing you into these draws?
We're finding a lot of ways to concede goals. I mean, the first one is a turnover right in front of our back line, and so on that one we play too slow. We get caught in possession, or we miss short a pass, or we do something where we turn it over right in front of us, and then you lose balls right in front of us. Sometimes you're gonna take it, and that's, their best strength is in the transition. They won the ball, and 3 passes later they were into a dangerous spot, and they finish it on us. But I think sometimes it's us not taking care of the ball in the right way. They should have scored on us in the end, and for the same reason, we get stuck in possession in the middle of the field, right in front of our back line, and quite frankly, we could have lost the game on that particular action. So that's sometimes. The second one, again, we're in a bit of a defensive posture. I think the ball gets switched to the other side. We get beat in a one-on-one situation, a bit away from the goal. The back line steps to close, shot gets taken, deflects off of our guy, and finds its way into the goal. I think that's kind of the second one of those in probably 3 games that is deflected and found its way over the goalkeeper or past the goalkeeper. So it's, again, can you stop it before it gets into that type of situation, and then maybe you don't live on some of the bad luck that you get when the ball deflects. It's probably not going in and then finds its way in the goal. And the third one, again, I think we're in possession. We lose possession in our half of the field. Turns into a transition where our right back is very high, which means our right side is pretty vacant. They find, I think it's their left winger in that position, and he squares it across the top of the box for a shot. We block it. It manages to squeak through our block into their guy, and it's a finish. So again, all things matter. It's how you lose the ball, where you lose the ball, your position and cover when you lose the ball, especially when you're a possession-oriented team. Those things can put you in very bad situations if you lose the ball in bad ways, or your organization is poor when you do lose the ball, things like that. Sometimes it's poor defending. And every now and then you have to give credit to a team that they score a good goal. But I think for a lot of these are goals that we should be able to prevent with one of a few different ways of being a little bit, a little more solid with the ball, a little more organized, or a little more collective in dealing with certain situations. But it's difficult. I say this every time. It's difficult to win games when you've got to score 4 to win games, and that's been a challenge for us. But the amount of goals we're scoring is certainly a positive, but the amount of goals we're conceding is just way too many.
One thing Maya said the other day, it's like you probably said there, a little bit of a lack of concentration at key times.
Yeah, certainly at times. I think that's a part of it. Again, I think if you switch off for just a second, or you think you're comfortably in possession of the ball, and then boom, you're not in possession, and you've switched off for a second, then you can get caught. You can ball watch, lose track of a guy. I've seen that happen where we're really fixated on the ball and how we're going to deal with the ball, and a guy pulls off of us or finds a space that that ends up hurting us. So there's a lot of details that go inside of these. When you give up as many goals as we have over this stretch, then there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different little errors that are coming inside of all that.
Hold on a second. Someone decided to call me right in the middle of this. You went from the last goal you gave up took you from 4 out of a playoff spot to 6 out of a playoff spot, and in a lot of ways you're fortunate to be there when Mablala has an open header right at the end. I mean, they can be complaining that they should have won this game. You've got 4 games left, 6 points to make up, and we're not seeing this team doing, as you've talked about defensively, doing the job that needs to be done to do so. How do you see what's coming? What are the biggest challenges that you're facing within that?
Yeah, I think you identified it. I mean, with every game that goes by and we end up with a draw, the margins get finer, much finer. We have 2 on the road now, which are going to be really difficult. And so, we've got to go on the road and we've got to take points. at the end of the day, at this point, we've got to set ourselves up that the last home game against Dallas has to be super meaningful. But there's a lot of work inside of that has to get done. And as a starting point, it's the defending side of things, because it's very difficult to win games giving up our goals. So again, the margins are really fine for us right now, but there's still a chance. So everybody is going to keep battling, and we'll try to close our gaps as much as we can and push for it.
We've seen on corner kicks for years and years and years. You could probably call a penalty on every corner kick in terms of the holding and all that's going on in there. Dickerson pulls Eric and Mosqueda over and talks to them about it and goes back, and Mosqueda wraps himself around him, and he's moving there and he's wrapped around him. Is that, in your view, is that a penalty kick?
For me, the rules and what we hear about before every season is holding in the box is something that we're going to be cracking down on, we're going to be keeping an eye on, and every year I think it disappears in the end. For me, it is. If you're not paying any attention to the ball and all you're doing is face guarding a player and wrapping your arms around him and holding him, for me, it's a penalty, and that's how it's described to us at the beginning of the season, that the defender has to be able to make a play on the ball, which means see the ball, make a play on the ball at the same time they're defending him. So, yes, but that's getting into the weeds of our challenges right now in terms of what we need to do to win games. But yes.
Greg, looking at Eric's night, scores 2 goals, sort of had that unlucky own goal and was involved in probably the first 4 goals that got scored there. What did you see from him just in resilience? Have you seen him score 2 goals in a game before?
Not as a center back. Back when he played some forward, as in college, maybe he scored a couple, but not so much as a center back. But I thought they were great headers. I mean, he got into great spots. The ball was there, and I think he headed the ball into wonderful spots. The first one was a tough one. It was not an easy one to get to and get into a good spot. So it was, it was great. It was helpful for us because we weren't creating a ton of chances in other ways. So the set pieces were important for us. We had a couple here or there. But again, I thought, our whole back line has been manufactured over and over again through the course of the season. I mean, that's one of the things that maybe we don't want to talk about, but we've gone through a whole different slew of guys playing together, and that does count for the lack of continuity in the back line, which can leave you vulnerable. But I know that's excuses, but that's facts when it comes to defending. A lot of defending is the connections. I don't believe defending is necessarily an individual thing. I think it's a collective thing, and I feel like we are vulnerable. But I thought he and Maya, they do a solid job together, but when we put them in tough positions, sometimes they have to deal with things. What the hell do you expect them to do? They deal with stuff left and right, and at some point it becomes overload. But I thought the two of them, they've started together a few times over the last 6 or 7 games before Eric went to national team duty, and they had a couple of good games together then. So there is some continuity in how they see things. They just don't have a lot of repetitions together, and things going on around them also could be a lot cleaner. That would help their situation to be a lot better. But I thought Eric's goals were a huge plus. Not something you would ever count on any given night. That's for sure.
Josh, last question, Josh.
And you guys go into the half 3-2, right? So there's a lot of momentum there. You come out in the second half, and still you have to pull Douglas out, and I know that probably killed some of the momentum there. If you could talk a little about that, but then the last 15 minutes, the subs that you put in, they didn't have, I imagine, the effect that you wanted them to. You guys really couldn't get out of your own half.
No.
Why, and what's the difference there?
So, I mean, with Douglas, he hasn't played in 2 weeks. He's trained just a little bit. I felt with all of his quality and his ability at any moment to pull something off, he was gassed. And that comes to a little bit of vulnerability for us on the defending side, and also just a vulnerability to lose him in any particular situation. So we had to do something there. Speaking of the subs, last week the subs came on and they were incredible. They won the game. They got us into the game and got us a point. I think 2 or 3 of them scored and created goals, and they were outstanding. And tonight we put them on, and I feel like there wasn't any energy out of that group to try to add or give the group that had been playing for the time just that extra energy, that fight to hold up balls, to draw fouls, to get a possession, to win balls back, to sprint and work. Yeah, I didn't feel like they brought any energy to the situation. I shared that with them in there. I felt like the week before the group was incredible, and it's not about any individual. It's just when you have 5 subs now, and if you put 5 subs, those guys have to change the flow and the energy of the game because it's half of a team, right? And I just felt like we didn't get a footing in that way to have an impact on the game. Why is a tough one for me to answer. Why one week it can be spectacular and free, maybe there's nothing to lose, and so they come on much freer in the mind to just go for it, and then when they come on this week, it's a little bit younger group of players, maybe coming on with the expectation now to see one out and to do that, maybe that's different. That's the only thing in my mind that I can think of that's really kind of different on the day is, they're a physical, strong team, and we didn't win some of the duels and battles in the second half that we needed to win some balls to get us out of our half of the field, to hold some things up, to take some pressure off, things like that we needed to be stronger with.
Thanks for your time, Greg.
Okay.